This week on the TT show, Xbox and PlayStation go mobile, new Surface laptops smoke Apple's MacBook in tests, Call of Duty comes to Game Pass, AMD GPU tech levels up, Valve's new mysterious game, and much, much more. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the TT show. My name is Jack Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at Tweaktown, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Kosta Andriadis, gaming hardware editor at Tweaktown.
Hello, my friend.
How are we?
Pretty.
We're hours before leaving for Computex.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a hectic week next week. But,
Yep. I had to look at the schedule as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, it was like that last year, though.
Yeah, I know, but it's still like, damn. We have a lot of meetings, and that is not even accounting for, you know, you walk past a booth. Oh, what's that? That's pretty cool. Then you pop in there for a minute. Yeah. So even what we have to go to is a lot, but there is a lot of extra stuff as well. That we're going to see.
It's so big that you can't see everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but like you won't be able to like get a sense of everything anyway. There's just not enough time. Yeah.
It is. I'm super excited in particular for the NVIDIA keynote. I think I was saying this last week.
Yep.
And the AMD one as well.
And the AMD one, yeah.
Yeah, that is at the top of my list of things that I want to see. And also all of the laptops as well, like we were talking about last week. And we actually have a story in this episode that's talking about performance as well. So we're going to see them up close and personal. And for any listeners of the show, we will be posting constantly throughout the week we are at Computex in Taiwan. And
photos as well.
Yeah, photos will be going up to the socials, maybe some video if we can manage it. But yeah,
so just follow Tweaktown everywhere.
Yeah.
To follow.
Yep, stay tuned. And also, I say this at the end of the podcast. I probably should say it at the start. Subscribe to the YouTube. follow the socials and stuff. By the end of this, probably no one listening. So I'm putting the call to action at the front now. But with all that being said, let's talk about some games first up. I've been jumping into Senua's Sacrifice. Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2. Whatever one. Hellblade 2. And let's just say I cried like a little girl for maybe an hour straight at the start of this game. The graphics were so good and the audio was so good on my QD OLED panel, and I was playing in the dark as well. Just no reflections. I don't want any of those artificial brightening of colors or anything like that. So I was in a pitch black room and I was just weeping. I've never seen a game that looked that graphically good. The rain, the terrain that she's walking over, and all of the voices that she's hearing in her head as she's moving through, the combat, everything, it just feels buttery. There's some parts of it that are a bit jagged, and I can't. And what I mean by that is, like, you can animation cancel straight out of, like, you can be swinging your sword at an enemy and then you can dodge straight out of it.
But that's good though. Like as far as games go, you want that because like it's annoying if you have to wait for an animation to be able to like dodge or move out of like a thing. Like if you start an attack and then you can't cancel, that becomes annoying in a lot of games.
You just enraged every single Dark Souls fan, on the planet. They would be screaming at you right now. Like, no, it's good. It sounds like a skill issue, Kosta, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I make no secret that I will put a game on easy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I like that.
Oh, yeah, like it was like years ago, right? For IGN, I posted a feature called Easy Does It. The case for putting a game to just lowering the difficulty to easy. An opinion piece. And surprisingly, there were the usual comments of like, get good.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
What are you doing? But then there were a lot of people agreeing, saying, like if you just want to experience the story or if there's the cinematics or if you're not gelling with the combat or if like that side of the experience isn't what you're really after, then just do it. Like, and you shouldn't have to feel dirty by putting a game on easy.
Yeah, I've had this conversation multiple times with my best mate, who is completely not a regular gamer, but like, you know, he'll pick up the big game every now and again. Like he'll get GTA 6 and stuff like that.
Yep.
But he was a big fan of all of the Nathan Drake games as well.
Uncharted.
Yeah, the Uncharted games, and also like Wolfenstein. He loves all of the old school. Well,
the new ones.
Yeah,
Wolfenstein 2, I think, is one of the worst game. I mean, it's a great game, but in terms of like difficulty, it's one of the worst. Like the difficulty spikes in that game are all over the place.
Oh God, I haven't played it.
That's a game that I would argue like you would play it on. You would actually switch between easy and normal because playing that game on like the hardest difficulty is just silly.
Yeah, and he advocates purely for putting the game on easy if it's a story based game. But he also
it messes with the flow.
Yeah, he also recognizes like some games are at higher difficulties, they're better, and it's almost like the developers have put more effort into getting massive rewards out of increasing the difficulty of the game. And the prime example for me, at least, is Doom Eternal. Like I beat that on Nightmare, and
yeah, I got pretty far on Nightmare. Yeah, but that's a game where like you want to, like, your skill increases the more you play, and then you kind of like, oh, let me try, and it feels like you're overcoming an actual challenge. You don't feel cheated by the game, or like, you know, like silly mechanics, like, you know, some like back in the day, like, you know, you put a game on hard and it just means that an enemy takes 50 hits to get rid of versus 4, and it's like, well, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, a lot of the time that's just extra difficulty just for the sake of it, like making things damage sponges or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas like Doom Eternal, because it's so fast and frenetic, you actually have to assess the battlefield like every few seconds, know what's happening, and then work out where to go, but then also like have a backup plan. If that doesn't work, I can go there, I can go behind that to get some health or whatever, or do that ability. You know, like if there's tactics to it.
Yeah. I find it lazy on the developer's behalf. If I'm increasing the difficulty, I expect new mechanics to be introduced to the gameplay.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like
this whole like, oh, we'll just double the health of the mobs you're fighting. I'm like, well, that's not more difficult. It just takes longer. That's it.
Yep.
It's not harder. It's just harder in the sense of like the gameplay itself is harder. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
Just having more health doesn't mean it's harder. It just means I'm just going to sit there for longer doing the same things over and over and over again.
And then you start thinking about like, well, why are you even doing that? Because what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, one final thing is that like one of the best examples I remember from being younger was like GoldenEye on the N64.
Oh yeah.
Now on the Nintendo 64, GoldenEye, if you play on the easy difficulty, which was like, it was like Agent, Secret Agent, and 00 Agent, and each difficulty obviously, you know, a fewer hits for you to die.
Yeah.
But each difficulty added like 2 or 3 more objectives, which actually made the levels bigger, made it more complicated, and you actually had to do a lot more to complete the mission.
Yeah.
So instead of just trying to make it to the end and flicking the one switch, you had to go steal a card and do this and then do that.
See, that's nice.
So, and that was like one of the, because it actually felt like a different game. Each level felt very, very different, whether you're playing it on Agent or 00 Agent.
Yeah, no, I love stuff like that. And just to finish off this segment, I suppose, one of my favorite games for increasing difficulty in what I would say a perfect way would be The Last of Us. When you're increasing difficulty in that game, you get resource starved, but you also become I think you become stronger as well. So it's like,
yes,
and resources, because they are very valuable in that game, starving them makes it also fits into the world itself.
Yes,
I
know what you mean,
which is perfect because, you know, The Last of Us is a post-apocalyptic title, and being able to find less resources makes sense. So that I love those kind of where like the developer can like work it into the story or work it into the overall atmosphere of the title. That's primo stuff. But yeah, let's keep it on games and go to Deadlock. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, so we've both been reporting on it. So Valve, the creators of Half-Life, Portal, Dota 2, Team Fortress, the owners and proprietors of Steam, the most popular and vibrant PC gaming platform out there with, hundreds of millions of users. If you're PC gaming, you're most likely playing on Steam. Now, they don't release games very often. Their last... I mean, they do release games. I mean, Counter-Strike 2, which is technically a Valve title, but that's more of like a remake or refresh, was out recently. That was, CSGO became Counter-Strike 2. And before that, they released like a card game that was an offshoot of Dota 2 called Artifact. That didn't last very long, but it was an interesting experiment. Obviously, the Valve of today is different from the Valve that made Half-Life, so we're not necessarily expecting Half-Life 3 anytime soon, although that's always the dream. But so they're working on a new game, and there's been, apparently it's in alpha or beta testing with a closed group of people outside of Valve, and this is where the leaks are coming from.
Yes.
So it's called Deadlock, and it's described as an Overwatch-style third-person hero shooter, but the gameplay is kind of similar to Dota in that it's a 6v6 game with like different lanes and objectives, and almost like a MOBA, like a Dota or League of Legends in terms of objectives and victory conditions.
But it kind of looks like Fortnite as well, like at least from the screenshot in my article, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that over the shoulder.
So it's third person. Yeah. So it has like a Fortnite. But you look at the map and it looks like it's like a 3-lane thing. Now, like in terms of like how it might work, it's kind of... So Gearbox, who makes Borderlands, had a game come out around about the same time of Overwatch, but called Battleborn, that, obviously got dwarfed by Overwatch in terms of popularity and things like that. That was a hero shooter, but that played very different to Overwatch, even though those two games were often confused before they came out in terms of like, aren't they the same thing?
Yeah.
But Gearbox's version was very much like Dota, where we have different lanes, and then, like a MOBA, like you have to go get rid of the towers and then make your way to the enemy's core or base and then take that out to actually win a multiplayer match. So this kind of seems similar. And so it's called Deadlock, and there's already, over 19 heroes with distinct abilities and looks that, an artwork that looks pretty finalized, or at least pretty far along. But the gameplay footage that's leaked is kind of weird because it just shows traversal. It doesn't really show a lot of combat action.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting combination of popular titles. Like you said, they are trying to mash together the popularity of Overwatch and Dota. I don't know if this is going to work. What do you think?
I mean, it could work. Well, the thing is, it hasn't really worked much in the past. Like, if you look at, like Smite is probably...
Yeah, that's exactly
Paladins, right. And then they did Paladins, which was kind of like what this is. Paladins was like a third-person, I think, shooter that had the MOBA style in it as well. So, and there's been like even Epic Games tried it with a game called, I forget what it was called, Paradigm or something like that. It didn't really take off, but it was like, Fortnite creators Epic.
Yeah.
It didn't get out of beta, was never officially released, and they just released the source code for free for anybody else to play around with. So, like, obviously, like if all these developers are trying to mash these sort of genres or come up with a formula that blends, Fortnite and Overwatch third-person shooting with Dota and League of Legends competition, having multiple lanes and objectives and things like that. Like, I mean, if so many developers are trying to do it, so maybe there's something there, and then just the right game hasn't come along to take off.
Yeah, I can see that. I just think my initial reaction of this, and I'm sure I'm going to give it a go at some stage, but it's trying to be it being two separate things and coming together and trying to be like a combination of those two means it's a master of none. So if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, Overwatch was a Team Fortress ripoff in some sense.
Yeah, and so was
the classes
MOBA.
and the push and pull payload thing of Team Fortress 2. And I loved Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, so
I still
many.
do, but I don't really play it much anymore. But that's like one of the perfect of that style of game. So like, I mean, I would have preferred if this was like Team Fortress 3 or something like that.
Oh yeah,
like,
that would be cool.
Came out, that would be really cool.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose MOBA came from RTS. Like Dota was the originally, or League of Legends was original a mod for StarCraft 2.
Warcraft 3.
Warcraft 3, sorry, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe they can keep combining the genres, but every time I see a third-person shooter, I am immediately less interested, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I hate being able to see around corners.
Yeah.
Like just that itself, I'm like, what are we doing? Like just.
Oh right, yeah.
And also,
yeah, I know what you mean, because you can just flick the camera around and then have your character standing there and you can see what's coming.
Yeah, and then you end up giving yourself like a seizure, especially if the game can go into first person as well, because every time you're approaching someone, you go, okay, third person. You hit the button for that, and then your camera goes boom like that, and then you look around the corner, okay, there he is. Then you go back into first person, come around the corner, and gun him down.
Yeah, it has to be.
I'm like,
I think it's one or the other, no in between.
Yeah.
Like if this is third person, I'm guessing it's third person.
I reckon it would just be strictly third person. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could go either way. Like being from Valve, like I'm keen to play it because hey,
it'll be a smooth game,
making interesting games. So
yeah,
and if it's running on this latest source engine, stuff like that. Now, the reason why I mentioned Artifact, that Dota spin-off, which was a card game that they tried to rejig a few times and then ultimately just abandoned it. Like it shows that like Valve are willing to try new things. Now, because this hasn't been officially announced, Deadlock could get as far as this and then not see the light of day. If it's from Valve. Valve aren't. They kind of like run on their own time.
Yeah, they're not beholden to anybody.
No, based on how like their organizational structure works, they're privately owned, so they're not beholden to shareholders. They don't have to release anything. They make enough money off Steam to not ever have to worry about continual growth or dividends or like
Yeah, they don't need new products.
Yeah. Yeah, and the way that they've got a kind of like a flat structure where if you're working at Valve, you can work on anything that you want that interests you, that the studios are doing. Now that has its pros and cons because there's less of a focus, and there's always a con with everything. But it leads to like projects that are created organically and then also get pretty far along and then don't actually materialize, or there's just something that where they go, all right, yeah, no, we're not going to do that, or they just abandon things. So this could be something that doesn't actually ever come out.
Yeah.
But based on the amount of leaks, it looks like people are actually playing it now. So I think at the very least it'll get a early access or a open beta or some sort of high profile test with the public at some point.
Yeah, no, I agree. Someone broke NDA. That's why I wrote in my article. I'm like, someone has broken NDA because Valve, at least what I've heard along the grapevine, pretty tight on their NDAs as well.
Yeah. I think so.
That's what I've heard.
This would have been somebody's in trouble.
Someone is blacklisted from this and is definitely not getting into another Valve product release. But that is the way of the internet, right?
Yep.
There's always going to be a leak somewhere, unless you're Apple.
Yes.
So what do we have next on that? Is that about all you had on Deadlock?
Yeah. So next story is Copilot PCs.
Ah, yes. Now this is where it's getting interesting, and what we were talking about earlier. The performance we're seeing is, if this is accurate, and it appears to be accurate. Whoop, that's not the right story. Where is it? Microsoft's. Yes, here. Now this is a comparison by Signal 64. It's a benchmarking and analysis company by Ryan Shrout, which I'm I'm pretty sure Anthony is friends with. He's a former Intel employee and president and GM of Signal 65. Yep. He has compared the X Elite ARM-based CPU from Qualcomm, the Snapdragon X Elite SoC, against Apple's M3 silicon. I just want to make sure I get the right model on this. I'm pretty sure it was the Air, wasn't it? Yeah, Air M3.
MacBook Air.
Yeah.
Yep, versus the Surface, the new Surface laptop with the Snapdragon X Elite.
Yep. Now, the performance here is really interesting. The X Elite does lose in some tests, but we are starting to see a massive improvement, like say in Cinebench and Geekbench for that would be multi-core, right? Oh no, single core performance. This Elite X won by 15%.
Oh no, yeah. So like there's in Cinebench and Geekbench, so there's like single core benchmarks and multi-core benchmarks, and from this it looks like the X Elite loses. Oh no,
it lost. Yes, it lost in single core and was
by 15%, but is 30% faster in multi-core performance.
Yes. Yeah. Further multi-core testing found the X Elite to be twice as fast as the 12th gen Intel Core i7 chip and approximately 5% faster than Intel's latest Core Ultra 7 155H. Handbraking.
Impressive.
That's impressive. Handbrake encoding, X Elite beat the M3 by nearly 25%. Shroud tested Microsoft's new Prism emulation layer against laptops running apps natively. Now, this is where I think is very interesting. So the emulation layer, I'm guessing, is what Microsoft is using to get apps to run on the ARM-based CPUs.
That's right, yeah. So legacy apps that aren't optimized for the new platform or Windows on ARM, they run basically using emulation. Yep.
So the Intel Core Ultra 7 155H was 46% faster, while the Apple's M3 was 17% faster than the X Elite. So
yeah, the Intel Core, I'm not surprised that's faster because that's native.
Yeah.
Whereas Apple M3 is still emulation, so it looks like Apple's emulation is a little bit ahead of the X Elite.
Yeah, well, I suppose we've only really started off with the firmware for these new ARM chips. So as the years go by, the firmware will become more and more updated, more refined, more the performance will substantially increase, especially considering how far behind it is now based on these tests. I wrote these results highlight the importance of emulated performance versus native performance in applications, and performance seems to vary from app to app. So that's also something that we should take into account. It's not across the board. It is very specific. Like say, the X Elite was able to match the performance of the Core Ultra 7 155H in Lightroom Classic, which is probably a app that is going to be widely used for creators as well. And the Intel chip was running the app natively. So it really depends on the application. Media processing as well. We've come overall. This indicates Microsoft has some work to do with its Prism emulation tool. So that is the emulation layer that it's using. If you want to go check out any more of the benchmarks, it's all in the article there. And I've linked to the full report by Shroud. So what do you think about this? Do you reckon it's just a matter of time?
Yeah, I think the Prism stuff will get better over time. But I think it's already impressive because the other big takeaway is that battery life is notably better with these new X Elite chips compared to the Core Ultra and the MacBook M3.
Yeah, no,
apparently it's like it's double-digit better battery. Because Microsoft are touting that like it's the new Surface laptop is an all-day device, so you could theoretically go into an office with a Surface laptop and sit at a table or a desk and not even have to plug it in and be able to work for an entire day.
See, that is incredible. Because a lot of these laptops right now, they aim for like what Apple says 16 hours because they believe that most people are asleep for the remainder of that day, which is a fair assumption. But I also don't like how it is stifling battery progress, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
But having another product come out, and what is it? Did it double it? What did it? The report found that X Elite outperformed Apple's M3 Silicon in a variety of different tests, with the X Elite powered Surface laptop surviving over 21 hours in local video playback test, 15% longer than the MacBook Air M3 and twice as long as the Surface Pro 9.
Which shows you why they've chosen this chip.
Perfect. 21 hours. I can pull an all-nighter. Like, what if there's like a keynote or something?
The whole thing about the MacBook Air with the M3 chip was that it has a super long battery life, right? That was like one of its main things, is that this is like going to last so much longer than a laptop. And so then the new Surface now with this Snapdragon chip is like, okay, well, it's double the battery life of the previous Surface, but it's also faster than a longer lasting battery than Apple's, super long battery MacBook.
Yeah. No, I reckon this is going to really disrupt the laptop market for sure when all of these start coming out and they're actually in the hands of users as well. And then they start posting like, oh, I've been using this laptop for like 21 hours. Why would you go and what I need to look up really is the price difference. Like, how much is this new X Elite Surface laptop compared to the M3?
I think it's cheaper, but they start from about $1,200 US. So they're not. That's a Surface Pro, I think, the tablet one. But they're still a premium device, though. Microsoft, they kind of are marketing their Surface devices kind of like how Apple market their devices. As stylish, sleek, modern devices. But they are not as expensive. But the thing is, like, they're not going to be, because it's it's off the shelf components, as well as a spec that Lenovo, Dell, HP, Asus, everybody else are going to release their versions. So there's just going to be so many different variations, and there's going to be more affordable versions, different displays. Whereas Apple kind of like have that one spec, which is like you're going to get this great display no matter what MacBook you get. Whereas obviously there's going to be variations of this, of Copilot Plus PCs, and they're going to be cheaper. And they're
going to trickle down to the lower price brackets as well. Like, we're probably going to see some really budget laptops. I don't know if we'll see them at Computex. Probably we will. They'll probably be around like $600 or $500 or something like that, and there'll be Copilot Plus. Oh, actually no, because you need to hit that 40 tops, right?
Yeah. I mean, give it like another year, because they're all like, I mean, NVIDIA's making their own chips as well. So like, it's just going to be interesting. And then there's going to be next gen Intel and next gen AMD processors for this. So like, the market's going to be flooded. And that means there's just going to be an option in every different price point eventually. Yeah.
So to buy people that are thinking about buying these,
this is the first wave.
We should tell them to wait, shouldn't we? Just to see.
I would wait until like the second generation, to be honest.
And also, if you wait longer,
you absolutely need a laptop.
If you wait longer, you will have more software support. Like, we'll see that emulation tool get better as well. So
and you'll have more AI performance as well.
Yeah. So
in fact, like, a lot of companies like Dell even tease like wait till next year when their NVIDIA or like the NVIDIA like chips are going to be in the AI PCs.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to be like Blackwell GPUs, which will be, or with NPUs, which will be more powerful.
I'm just going to write down a quote. I mean, this is just a bit of a sidebar and a bit of inside baseball, but every time I think of as I'm thinking about Computex all the time, I'm writing down questions that I want to be asking different brands. So do we have an actual date, or not an official date, but like, is NVIDIA going to be releasing them next year? Is that the rumor?
Well, I mean, that's rumor. So, and there's also rumor that they're going to announce that at Computex. Now, if they do, it'll probably just be, I guess like a small announcement. So like, even like with AMD's like new Ryzen processor CPUs that will be at Computex, there's a rumor now that they're launching in July, and so they're not going to give us the full specs now in benchmarks now, like 2 months before release. AMD, I mean, most companies like you don't know how the 4090 performs 2 months before it comes out, right?
Of course,
like,
yes.
If they're going to announce it, they're going to say, "Hey, this is what it can do," and tease you.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to get a lot of teasers about this sort of stuff from NVIDIA and as well as AMD and possibly even Intel at Computex.
Okay. No, I'm excited. Yeah. I'll read you one of my questions that I have. Just to, we'll move on to the next story. So this is at a NVIDIA rep. Do you expect the US trade tariffs to get worse as AI becomes more sophisticated, therefore demanding more compute power? And my follow-up to that is, if yes, do you think the tariffs will impact NVIDIA's overall performance jump per generation, considering the 17% revenue of the Chinese market?
Yeah, that's going to be like an interesting topic as we head into like the next gen of consumer products, because like when it comes to data center, it's like, well, okay, we know China can't get these AI chips, but you've got every company from Meta to Google to OpenAI buying hundreds of thousands of these things. But what happens when that filters down to the AI PC, right?
Yeah.
So the workstation that you can buy off the shelf, the studio PC, the gaming PC. So that's why, like, when we discussed that, the 4080 might actually be, the 5080, like, could be too powerful to sell in a major market like China, and that they could be cutting it down just to be able to squeeze it into that market.
Yeah.
And then that means that something like the 6080, if these rules are still in place, would absolutely not sell in that region if those restrictions are still in place. So yeah, it's a very super interesting discussion, and yeah, hopefully we can get sit down with NVIDIA to do that.
Well, we got a dinner with them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's also going to be executives as well that we're going to get hands-on with.
Oh, really?
Or time with. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. This is another sidebar. Did you see that there is a pre-party for the NVIDIA
pre-party
for the NVIDIA keynote?
Oh yeah. Like there's like a
Are we going to that
mixer? That's on. Well, I mean, that's the first night, so.
I'm down. No, it would be fun. Hopefully we do get to go there, and then we get to go to the keynote afterwards. That'll be cool. But yeah, let's move on to the GPU corner. Update me.
Yeah, let's
update me,
GPU
my friend.
corner. All right. Top story. Well, I mean, not top story, but so AMD's anti-lag technology. This was a controversy last year because Counter-Strike players were getting banned when they were enabling this tech. So basically, anti-lag is AMD's version of Reflex.
Oh, yeah.
But NVIDIA Reflex is a really great technology, and it's the best version of this technology where it lowers system latency and it requires game integration, but it's supported by all GeForce cards. And it is found in basically every competitive, all the top competitive shooters and other style games where basically, you have Reflex enabled and you got lower latency, so faster response times.
Yeah.
And so AMD launched Anti-Lag Plus last year in September. And Anti-Lag Plus was their like revamped version of the technology to compete with Reflex, but it was driver based, which means all you needed to do was fire up the AMD Radeon software, Adrenaline edition, and then basically just enable it for games, right?
Yeah.
And which means that, like it's a solution that's like, oh, well, you can basically just apply it to any game. And it doesn't need to be integrated like NVIDIA Reflex. Okay, so a few weeks later, Counter-Strike 2 players with Anti-Lag Plus were being banned for cheating.
Wow.
Which is the VAC ban, Valve Anti-Cheat.
Yeah.
Call of Duty players were reporting the same thing of getting banned. So what was happening was that Anti-Lag Plus as a driver-based solution was actually injecting itself into the game code for rendering to reduce system latency. So it's all to do with like CPU cycles and GPU cycles and how it manages that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And if it's better managed, you just reduce latency. It's kind of like the way to describe it is kind of like a production line, right? So either, let's say you've got a production line and it's just one person at the end checking each individual thing and then putting it in the right basket, versus something that was just an automated, which is like bang, 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 bang. Like, it's just everything.
It's like
is
scanning barcodes.
Yeah, right. And that's basically what these sort of technologies, how they work when it comes to CPUs and GPUs. And so almost immediately, AMD removed Anti-Lag Plus from its software. And then they basically said,
we'll fix it.
There's obviously an issue. We're going to fix it and come back later.
Yeah.
And this was in October of last year. So fast forward several months later, and AMD has announced Anti-Lag 2, which is what they're calling it. And lo and behold, just like Reflex, this new version has to be integrated into the game, because for this technology to work, it actually needs to be a part of the game code or however the rendering works. So they can, so you're not flagged for cheating.
Yeah.
And so it's come back. They're saying that it's a dramatic improvement over the previous original version of Anti-Lag, which was always the issue, was that wasn't anywhere near as good as Reflex. So that's why they came up with Anti-Lag Plus initially. And so this new one has to be integrated into the game. But in a good news story, the first game to integrate it is Counter-Strike 2, the game that was banning people.
That's good. I like that though. That's good.
That's a very cool sort of like, okay, so you've come full circle and fixed it. And we can see that it works on all Radeon hardware going back to the 5000 series, but it needs to be RDNA. It needs to be an RDNA GPU for it to work. Yeah. AMD's Anti-Lag 2 doesn't work with GeForce. It's a platform specific technology. So we can see like in some cases, like, the latency is almost halved. So like on a 7800 XT in Counter-Strike 2, it goes from 20 milliseconds without any sort of latency reduction to 17 with the original anti-lag, down to 12 milliseconds with anti-lag 2. So it's a massive improvement to latency. But at these sort of like fractions of a millisecond, it's not really noticeable by a lot of people, but for competitive games, when you're playing at a super high frame rate,
especially in these games as well, like Counter-Strike.
If you're playing these games a lot, you will notice it at some point.
Yep. No, there was, I remember, this again might be a sidebar, but I remember when Counter-Strike 2 came out, I think Valve was on stage and one of the developers was like, saying people were complaining the game felt different and they felt like there was more lag on the thing. And he's like, we haven't changed anything at all. It's completely a what is it called? It's placebo effect, because it's a new game. People think, oh, this feels different.
Yeah, it looks different. They added like new, but the thing is, like, I think what people were noticing was that because like the visuals were improved, like, like what you could get on an old GPU with the original CSGO versus Counter-Strike 2, at equivalent high or max settings, is obviously reduced. Like, it's still optimized to run really fast on GPUs, but like they added like, these volumetric fog effects for like smoke grenades. And, like certain things that would tax hardware. So like maybe that was like the lag, but they also changed. I mean, the main reason why they updated it was because of how the server side stuff works. It was like really old technology and they needed to bring it up to date so it can compete with the likes of like Valorant and Apex and Call of Duty, and where their net code is more robust.
How does the anti-lag compare to NVIDIA Reflex in terms of?
That's what we'll find out. The expectation is that this being like a game specific integration of the technology, that now it
should be better.
Is more like Reflex. Well, it should be competitive with Reflex or closer to it than anti-lag ever was. Yeah. The thing with like the original anti-lag is that it's nowhere near as impressive as the Reflex technology. Okay.
Yeah, so it is because it's spread so thin, like across the entire stack of AMD GPUs. Is that part of the
And
reason why.
this technology, yeah, but it was also like the way it handled latency reduction was a very primitive method versus NVIDIA's method.
Right, where it's more,
'Cause
it's
kinda
title
like-
by title specific.
Yeah, but it's like the underlying technology. Like if you look at DLSS, how that worked, it's AI-based upscaling versus the original version of FSR, AMD's version, which was more like a spatial upscaler where it didn't take into account temporal information, which is like, where objects were on the previous frame and the next frame.
Yeah.
And then to do that, it was just use the current frame and
That's
that
it.
data only to upscale, no motion vectors or animation. That's why the original FSR, when a screenshot might look okay, but when you're playing it, you'll see shimmering or you'll notice that fast moving objects will pixelate or just get ruined entirely versus DLSS. So they like NVIDIA, like if they do stuff, they usually do like a high
It's high quality
version of it. They go all out. So that's what Reflex was compared to that. And so this new version, I'm sure we'll find out. It's in technical preview, and there's a driver out for it. And the driver includes like a monitor, so you can actually see what it's doing in terms of latency as well, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's finally back, which is good news because it'll also lead into the next story, which is latency reduction also helps technology like frame generation.
Yeah. Oh wow,
And
that's
the
a
next
substantial improvement.
The
Wow. 45 to 82.
Well, yeah, that's what frame generation does.
That's good.
This is hot off the presses. So the very first game with AMD FSR3 frame generation is now playable on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. It's the Immortals of Avium, which is a title that we talked about in the past, saying that it was coming. So it's now available, and Digital Foundry have done preliminary tests, and it's like a 72% increase to perceived performance.
Wow.
And I say perceived because it's it's generating frames, these from data and inserting them to improve the smoothness and other technology to to make sure it feels good. But it's like it can up to like double the performance. And so like it means now console games could get up to like 100 FPS, 120 FPS with frame generation. On the PS5 Pro, this will be interesting tech to see on. And and they in their initial impressions, they say that it's worth, like if you have it, you obviously need a 120 hertz TV with HDMI 2.1 and VRR to actually
hit it.
To hit it, because the frame rate changes at any given moment. It's like it sits in the 80s. But they say that the trade-off, so even though image quality suffers a little bit and you can notice artifacts in the generated frames, they said, and the FSR2 upscaling doesn't look very good in this specific game, and it's using those frames to generate more new frames. But they say even with all of that, it's worth playing the game with this enabled, with frame generation enabled versus off, because it's like going from it feels like playing a super high frame rate PC game. Because you're going from
40 FPS to 80,
40 to 60 FPS to like 80 to 100 or whatever it is.
That's night and day.
That's right. And that's like a big jump where you notice it. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is
cool
so good to see. Yeah. I'm really keen to see what the performance is on the PS5 Pro. That is
so frame generation.
We're going to hit over 100. We're going to.
Yeah, that's right.
Consistently as well. Hopefully. It's just a shame that they did this for a game that no one plays.
Well, the good thing is that this game is now on Game Pass.
Oh, okay.
So if you're on Game Pass, you can check it out.
Yeah.
So if you got a high end TV, and you're a Game Pass subscriber on Xbox, you can download it and play it with frame generation.
Yeah.
And also it's available as part of PS Plus, whatever that their subscription service.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's available there. So at least it's available to people that wouldn't actually need to buy the game to check out.
Yeah, true.
Frame generation.
Yeah.
So that's a plus.
Yeah, that is a plus. No, that's cool. I'm very excited to see what the next gen consoles can do, and I've been waiting for I don't even know 7 years or so for consoles to hit 4K 120, and it seems that we're on the precipice of that happening, which is very good.
Yeah, like frame generation is going to definitely help.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's already doing on PC, right? Like even with like a 4080 or 4090, some games you turn on frame gen and it's like 4K 200 FPS or 160, 170, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like insane. It's like going from like, you go from like 60, 70 or 80 to double. And it's so impressive. Or even almost sometimes triple the performance.
More frames, higher resolution. That's where I live.
Yeah. I mean, there is like some people, fake frames, they don't want anything to do with it. But like you play with it and a lot of the time, like with DLSS 3, the best implementations of it, you don't really notice any sort of like artifacts or like it doesn't impact the immersion, and it's worth enabling in many games that support it.
Wow. Okay, cool. I'm just looking at that 3D Mark story. Did you want to hop over to that?
Yeah. So the next story is all about benchmarking and performance again. So 3D Mark Steel Nomad, and we're going to see a lot of this in the future, and I'm going to see this benchmark run 1,000,000 times very soon.
It looks good, man.
So this is the successor to Time Spy.
Oh, wow.
So
okay,
3D
cool.
Mark Time Spy. This is available to all people that own 3D Mark, but also the demo users as well, like the free users. You can run the new Steel Nomad demo or benchmark. So this is basically the successor to Time Spy, and the full version. And it's like optimized for DirectX and Vulkan API. It's optimized for, it can run on Linux and Windows and basically any platform where 3D Mark is available. And so the high-end gaming PC version runs in 4K and it looks incredible.
It does.
It doesn't have like, DLSS or frame generation or things like that. So I ran it on a 4080 Super just to test it out. And the frame rates were about 65 to 70 FPS in 4K. So it's a PC stress test and a half.
It's heavy.
It's heavy. And because of that, they've released a version called Steel Nomad Lite, which is the same scene but at nighttime. And I also captured that on the 4080 Super. Now that version turns off some of the more advanced DirectX 12, almost like those Unreal Engine type of 5 effects that modern games like Hellblade are using and stuff like that. And that runs at 1440p instead of 4K. So this is the light version is meant for
your mid-range
sort of gaming rigs. Yeah, even entry level, even the new Copilot Plus PCs, they say can run it.
Wow, okay, cool.
And so with the 4080, that 65 to 70 became about 200 FPS.
Yeah.
So this is the light version still looks really cool.
That's a substantial difference, isn't it?
But it's a substantial difference, yeah.
Damn. 1440p. And what kind of score do you get at the end? Because I don't think in these videos it shows you the score. Is it just like a 4-digit number like the rest of the 3D Mark scores?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So you get you get your average FPS as well as a
score.
A score, which starts at it's similar where it's like a high end GPU will score in the 6,000s now because it's a brand new test, and then or lower end GPUs will score accordingly. It'll be similar to what we see with Time Spy and those benchmarks.
Yeah.
And because it's a replacement, 3D Mark actually released some pretty cool stats for Time Spy. So Time Spy came out in 2016.
Yep.
And so this is the next major one after that. So it's like 8 years later. So when Time Spy came out, the average scores were in the 4,000s. And now the average scores are around about 14,000.
Oh my God.
So it goes to show you that. So like when I say like the 4080 Super is only getting 65 to 70 FPS, and in score that's about 6,000 or 6,500, wherever it is. That means that this test, Steel Nomad, this is going to be the test for like the next 2 or 3 generations of GPU hardware.
Yeah, for sure.
So the scores will increase dramatically. And 3D Mark said that since Time Spy came out, there have been 48 million benchmark results
Whoa.
logged. These are the ones that, that are verified online, and that tells you like, this is your score and this is the average.
People have opted into it.
Expect. Yeah.
Wow, 48 million. I reckon half of that was you, mate, when you were doing all them GPU reviews.
I know. I've run it a few times.
Yeah, you're very familiar with this test, Kosta.
Yeah, exactly. The good thing about
you could do it shot for shot
is that it's no fuss. Like it's a 60-second benchmark.
That's good. That's good. You don't want a 3-minute benchmark. Ugh.
Yeah, it doesn't run 15 different tests and give you an average. It just, this is the benchmark and that's it.
Yeah, Metro Last Light or whatever? I remember benchmarking. It was like a 3.5-minute benchmark.
Oh, the worst is Red Dead Redemption 2's benchmark.
Oh, how long is that?
It's close to about 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
Because it takes like a minute or so just to load.
Oh.
It doesn't matter what SSD you have.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
That's funny. Well, what I'm also glad is 3D Mark isn't charging $15,000 for this benchmark.
Yes, yeah. I know, right?
That's a callback to that other 3D Mark story. I'll just pull up the article. What is it? 3D Mark. Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, it was the AI test. It was like
benchmark. That was funny, and I'm like, can't.
It was like Procyon, I think it's called. Procyon.
Early 3D Procyon.
Yeah, $5,000.
Oh yeah,
$5,000 AI image generation benchmark tool.
Yeah, $5,000 for a benchmark.
Yeah, it's like the UL Solutions, which is the company that makes 3D Mark. It's their Procyon. I don't know how you pronounce it, but anyway, Procyon benchmarks, which are like for professional systems, and that's like uses Stable Diffusion AI, and it's an AI image generating benchmark where it gives you like a 3D Mark style score because it generates the same sort of like images over and over, and like it costs $5,000.
You don't even get to keep the images.
Well, it's just a benchmark.
Yeah,
right?
I know, but you don't even get the images.
It simulates. It's a simulation of Thingo, and it gives you a score.
Yeah, but you'd think you'd be at least get the images afterwards or something. They give you a 4-digit number. It's $5,000. Anyway, no, that is a cool test. I'm keen to see what those ARM PCs perform like.
Yeah.
In comparison to some like MacBooks and stuff like that. That would be cool. And Intel, of course, Intel-based laptops. Do you want to talk about Rubin?
Yeah, final GPU story, which is Rubin, which is next gen. Next
gen. I really like the name. And I think since we did the last episode, NVIDIA did its first quarter earnings report. That was astounding to me how much money they have made in just the first quarter. $14 billion in profit from its dedicated AI chips. 14 billion in 4 months.
3 months.
3 months. Sorry, 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months.
It's insane.
It's just like my jaw was on the floor when I was reading the news. I'm like, $14 billion. Their stock price went over 1,000 per share. 1,000.
Yeah, insanity.
It's just like, I can't believe how much this AI explosion has just
AI boom
has propelled NVIDIA forward. And just to keep touching on the earnings report, this is from companies like Meta, Amazon, Google, and OpenAI buying these GPUs. They're just eating them all up. And at the moment, NVIDIA is planning for, well, it's got Blackwell in the pipeline. I'm guessing that would be ready, right? Like,
Blackwell is out this year, and I think it's already shipping to some people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the high end. And Blackwell is the architecture that's going to be in the 50 series, which is supposedly launching at the end of this year with a 5090 and a 5080. So that's like, like how Ada Lovelace is the 40 series architecture, and Ampere was the 30 series. Blackwell is going to be the 50 series.
Yep, 5,000 series, and then we've got 6,000 series, presumably the
Potentially
6,000
being
Rubin.
Yeah, Rubin. Yeah.
Rubin.
And the interesting thing is that the quote that you've got from NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is, after Blackwell, there's another chip. We're on a 1-year rhythm, which means Rubin, which is the code name for GPU's next-gen architecture after Blackwell, is due in 2025. And that means that there'll be something for 2026 as well. They're going annual. It's usually 2 years.
Yeah, it is. It's
Traditionally.
typically 2 years. How do you feel about this? I reckon it is so exciting, but it also means that...
I think it's just more incremental.
What do you mean by
Like,
that?
it just has to be. Like, if you're releasing every year versus 2, like the generational leaps are just going to be more incremental as opposed to monumental.
Right,
You know
so
what I mean?
we'll see more of a saturation of the market in terms of GPUs
Or you might just
available.
say, hey, this is 10% faster than last year's.
Yeah.
And then the next year one comes out, this is 15% faster than that one.
So it's less
Kind
exciting.
of like, they'll, like, I mean, potentially, right? Like, how Apple does it. Like, they compare their M4 with the M2. Because compared to the M3, it's only an incremental upgrade. You know what I mean? Like, every 2 generations for the M chips seem to be a notable update. But NVIDIA is its own entity when it comes to this sort of stuff. And
I think it's looking to absolutely capitalize on the AI boom, and it rolling out annually will just completely upgrade their profits, which are already astounding. Like, and especially considering these enterprise these AI GPUs, hold on, I just want to get that. Jensen said that you'll easily be able to transition from the H100 to H200 to B100. And for those that don't know, H100 is the Hopper architecture AI GPU. Then you've got the upgraded H200 Hopper, and then the B100 is the Blackwell AI GPU.
Yep.
So having these backwards compatibility and also releasing annually will mean that companies like Meta, Amazon, Google, OpenAI, anyone else that is buying these AI GPUs will be able to seamlessly upgrade as new cards are rolled out.
This is what I don't understand, right? Like, if you're building like this massive AI thing, and it's 100,000 GPUs and you're running it, and then you're spending billions, and then what do you do? Like, you upgrade it next year? What happens to all those GPUs you just bought?
What is...
Like, this seems like I mean, obviously, like,
you're still using
this happens all the time in the server space, and that's how fast tech moves. But it's just the amount of these GPUs that are being sold. It's kind of hard to fathom. Like, who's buying that many, setting them up, and then dismantling them a few months later and buying the new version?
Yeah, because in the gaming market, you usually wait. I reckon if you buy a GPU, I reckon the approximate time with that GPU, if you buy let's say you're making the leap from 1080p to 1440p, and you buy the appropriate monitor and the appropriate GPU, and you've got your setup, you can play 1440p at 144 hertz in every game. You will probably wait, I reckon, 5 years. Do you reckon that's an approximate?
Yeah,
it's about 5 years between upgrades.
Based on what NVIDIA says, they notice... Well, I mean, this is their information, so I'm guessing this is based on their own data or however they track it.
Yeah.
Is that most gamers, like the hardcore gamers, the ones that want to stay up to date.
Yeah.
So this is not just people buying a PC and then having that PC for however long. The ones that want to upgrade and keep up with the latest games, it's every second generation. So people that had a 10 series card, like a 1060 or a 1070 or a 1080, that classic series of GPUs, most, they bought a 30 series GPU.
Yeah, they skip the 2000 and go straight, because that would be like, what would you say, about a 40 to 50% performance hike compared to the... You're getting about double.
50, 60%.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting like a really good uplift.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like double.
So
like,
it's
like a 1080 versus a 3080 is like double.
Oh,
performance.
yeah.
And that's kind of like why you do it, right? And then, so that generation, so people that have 30 series, like a 3070 or a 3080, might be looking at the 50 series when that comes out.
Yeah.
But the only question mark now is around about pricing, because like when you bought a 3080, I mean that kind of launched at a time when prices kind of just exploded. But based on what we're hearing with the 5090, if it's going to be as powerful as it is, like it's probably going to be so impressive that its price will be like, okay, that's just not a real product, if you know what I mean.
It's
like
a Halo
it gets
product.
to a point. Yeah, it gets to that's right. Where it's the very literal definition of that, where it's like it's so expensive that it doesn't make any sense to anyone.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah,
it's like, sure, I'd like to have it, but why would you spend $2,500?
Yeah,
on a GPU?
It's an enthusiast level card. Like it's for
it's beyond enthusiast.
It's for freaks like us, Kosta, that just want more frames and higher resolution. And
but even then, I'll draw the line.
You would hold the line.
I mean,
no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean,
You're a sucker for it.
Yes, but if I was to buy a GPU, right, I would stick to something like the 4070 Super if I was to buy one.
Yeah, I mean that is the appropriate reaction and
that's like
choice.
A realistic choice.
But I would be right there and be like, take my money. Take my money. Yeah. You'll be like, Jack, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hold the line. I'm like, I can't. Look at the frames. Look at the performance. Can't do it. I need my games to be 4K at 200 hertz. Everything. 200 frames.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now that I got the MSI 4K OLED with 240 hertz.
Oh, you got it?
Gonna need that 5090. Yeah. Yep. So they were very generous to supply one for all my reviews and benchmarking later this year, because I needed a new monitor, because my previous MSI monitor that they graciously supplied as well, I destroyed accidentally.
Oh no!
I was moving things around my desk when I was rearranging everything, and it kind of tipped. And then there was something sharp, just with that sharp corner sitting on my desk, and it tipped and it just hit it. I'm like, and then I lifted it up. Whereas it would have been fine if that wasn't there. It just basically tipped.
Yeah.
But the sharp corner went straight into the LCD.
No.
And then you turn it on, and then it's like that, where it looks like it's just
leaking,
weird. Almost looks like broken glass, but a broken TV with green and all these weird colors, and I'm like, this is ruined.
No, dude.
And then so then I emailed MSI. I'm like, I'm sorry, but the monitor you gave me is now
it's destroyed.
Ruined. Can we replace it? And they're like, well, we can't really repair it because, that model is not really something we would repair anymore because it's old. So yeah, and anyway, fast forward now, I've got.
Is it the 321 URX?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. No, that's a great monitor. I just switched that out for Asus's variant of that, which uses the exact same.
It's so good.
Yeah, it uses the exact same panel from Samsung. Yeah. So the reviews with all of these OLEDs are, they're quite easy.
Because they're all great.
Yeah, they're all fantastic. Yeah, but the only real downside, I reckon, is the gloss. I'll get used to it. You can get used to it, and you can just move your lights behind your monitor. And maybe I would say the brightness. The brightness is.
No, it's fine for me.
It's low, and you really do want to turn your lights off if you want to get the full experience. Playing in the darkness is.
I play with I lower the brightness anyway. I think these monitors are plenty bright. Yeah, I
turn it up. I max it every single time.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't. It's too much.
It's only 250 nits. It's nothing.
Yeah, but that's perfectly fine for a regular room that's not got a lot of tons of sunlight or natural light coming in.
Yeah, maybe.
It's fine enough. I turn the brightness down. Obviously when you're outside and your phone's on full brightness and you can't see anything, I understand where you need those sort of things. But if you're in a full sunlit room, sure, I wouldn't go OLED. But if you can control the lighting, I don't think it's never an issue for me. Anyway, that's personal.
Fair enough. Let's take a bit of a break and do our headline game. Headline game. We'll just quickly explain it for those that haven't watched the last couple of episodes. Each week we come up with 2 fake headlines and 1 real one, and we read them to each other, and we got to find out which one of these headlines is fake. Did you want to start, or do you want me to?
Yeah. All right, I'll start. And my ones are, once again, designed to be very similar, so you can't discern them from each other, and designed to stump you. So like I do this on purpose.
I also have done that.
So I've got 3 headlines. Now, 2 of them are fake and 1 of them is real.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fake ones kind of sound real, and I'll go through them. And in no order and no explanation as to which one's fake or which one's real. That comes at the end. Okay, so the first headline: Gigabyte's new WindForce GPU cooling technology for RTX 50 series to support the world's first 5.5 slot GPU.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The next headline:
5 slots. I don't even know if I have that many in my motherboard.
MSI GeForce RTX 4090 Supreme Fusion is a 4.5 slot GPU with built-in AIO cooler.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, go. Yep.
Headline number 3: Asus to unveil new dual-slot compact ROG Strix OC GPUs with AI-powered cooling at Computex.
See, that seems so real. That last one really does seem real. Okay, so the first one is the 5 slot from Gigabyte. That seems ridiculous. 5 slots. I don't know. You have to have a full tower PC for that to even work, right? And what? That is so big. That is 5 slots. What's the 4090? 3?
No, it's like 3.8.
Yeah, it's almost 4.
4. There's 4 slot.
Oh, it's one more. It's not even.
Pretty sure, close to.
One more. It's not even that much, really, is it? When you're at
5.5
4.
slots though.
5.5. That card can't even go into an ITX build or a mini ITX build.
Of course not. Nowhere close to it. I don't even know how it. Probably wouldn't even need like a GPU like bracket because it's just going to touch the bottom of the case.
Yeah, it just sits on the PSU shroud. It's just sitting on.
Yeah.
All right, I reckon that one. I'll save my guess to the end. Okay, so then the second one is the 4. Is it 4.4?
4.5 slot
4.5
GPU RTX 4090 Supreme Fusion with built-in AIO cooler, which is
that seems real.
Cooling.
That seems real. But the last one also seems real. And the last one is
dual slot, the ROG Strix OC GPUs from Asus with AI-powered cooling. So they've managed to shrink down their chunky GPUs down to like little compact ones.
And they've got their own AIO cooler that has AI.
Well, it's got the cooling is like AI powered.
Right.
So they've gotten their big chunky ROG Strix triple slot 3.5 slot GPUs. Those spaceships. Remember when I held one up, the 4070 Ti Super or the 4080 Super, and you're like, whoa, how big is that thing?
Huge.
It's the size of a PC almost.
All right, my guess is the first one is the fake one. And the last...
Oh, there's 2 fake.
Okay, there's 2 fake. Okay, that's a fake one.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think the Asus one is fake. The middle one is the real one. The MSI 4.5 slot.
You're correct.
Yes!
You got it right.
I got one. Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Now, that is funny, though. A 5.5 slot, I would laugh so hard if I saw that at Computex. I'll go up to the rep and be like, what are you guys doing?
Well, I mean...
It's not that much
that's
bigger.
Where we're headed, though.
It's not that much bigger, but still, I'd be like, who told you this was a good idea?
Yeah, no. It's like, no, it's time to stop.
But still, 4.4, that's still bigger than the 4090. So that's chunky.
It's got like a built-in AIO cooler, so like it must have like the radiator and...
Oh, I'd like to see the temps on that.
Cooling in one. That'll be at Computex.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll get to see it.
I want to see the temps on it. I think I've only ever put an AIO cooler on one GPU, and it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying to...
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
No.
Like, AIO all in one. I mean, because you don't actually have to, buy the water block and then disassemble your GPU, then put it on the PCB like that.
I did
sort
that.
of stuff I don't want to do.
Yeah, no, I'll never do it again. I will never do it.
Exactly.
I will never do it again. It was terrifying. Okay, all right, here are mine. So, NVIDIA HBM3E memory shakes up industry with massive performance hike. NVIDIA HBM3E memory reportedly has massive heat problems. Yeah, I'm taking one out of your book right now. And Samsung's HBM3E fails to meet NVIDIA specification standard.
I mean, all I know is that
you've done this.
M3 is fast.
Is fast.
That's all I know.
Yeah. It's quick.
That's like next gen memory, right? For GDDR7X or 8X. I don't even, whatever it is.
It's the next gen. I don't know what it is. It's quick. Did you want me to read them out again?
I'm just going to do eeny meeny.
Uh-oh.
But actually, no, read them out again.
Okay. So Samsung HBM3E fails to meet NVIDIA specification standard. NVIDIA HBM3E memory shakes up industry with massive performance hike. NVIDIA HBM3E memory reportedly has massive heat problems.
Let's go heat problems.
As the one that's real?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a guess.
That's wrong.
Which one's real?
The Samsung. Yeah, I don't even think NVIDIA doesn't even do HBM3E. It's Samsung.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's going to be on there.
Yeah, but it's close enough where you go, okay, and NVIDIA HBM3E, that makes sense in a headline, but it's Samsung that's actually making it, and they did fail the NVIDIA specification standard.
Right.
Yeah. I haven't looked into that story. It's just something that I saw earlier, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to take one out of Kosta's book here and do 3 about the same thing.
Oh, well, I mean, there's variations. Like I choosing different brands, Gigabyte, MSI, Asus.
Yeah. You know? They're all the same thing, though.
That's what you got to do.
Bloody slots in your motherboard and how big they're getting.
How fat can GPUs get?
Yeah. All right. Now that's always fun. We're going to do that every week. It is fun to write fake news headlines as journalists. Did you want to go into the games corner?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's talk about game.
Do you want to do
Xbox and PlayStation go mobile?
Yeah.
This is a quick one. So Xbox is launching a mobile app, and that makes sense because they bought Activision Blizzard King, and the King component of that is who makes Candy Crush and a few other
they make so much stuff
that just generate tons of money on a market that has, I don't know however many, almost like 1 billion users or whatever. How many phones are out there, right, that have access to these sort of games? But yeah, so there's an Xbox mobile store coming, and it's going to have all the free-to-play stuff, which includes Candy Crush, Call of Duty Mobile, and Diablo Immortal. And it's going to sell microtransactions, and you know, this is like a big play to generate more revenue for the Xbox brand.
Yeah, for sure.
Or to integrate their existing Activision thingo and just put it under that Xbox branding now, which makes sense. But I guess the more interesting thing is that Sony is also looking to do it. So we know Sony is ramping up its PC side of, you know, releasing games on Steam, and Ghost of Tsushima was one of the most recent ones. But yeah, so apparently they're developing a mobile games platform, and it's a PlayStation mobile experience. And we know that because they're actually hiring PlayStation Studios Mobile. They're hiring for engineers to develop a platform for free-to-play mobile games. So it seems like it's almost like the same, very similar thing. Now, this is weird because a lot of it comes down to, as well as, like, you know, the EU laws and stuff like that. You know how, like, Android
compete and stuff.
Yeah, like iOS app stores and things like that, like storefronts. They can't be monopolized anymore. So for example, like they'll be able to sell, like there'll be like a native Xbox app on an iPhone, and that'll have free to play Call of Duty, and it'll have its own storefront, and Microsoft will take 30%, and Apple will no longer take the lion's share of the revenue. And it'll be the same with the Sony PlayStation mobile store. So but also with the Sony side, it's them expanding PlayStation into mobile. So they're going to have free to play PlayStation games. What does that mean? There's going to be free to play Uncharted, free to play Last of Us, free to play God of War, free to play Helldivers on mobile, or you know what I mean? Like there could be like any number of things, because they're obviously looking at mobile as access to 1 billion more customers, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think they'll probably release that new mobile platform alongside a PC client. I reckon we're going to see a PlayStation client in the near future as Sony prepares. This is completely speculation on my behalf. I don't think there's any rumors on this at all.
Well, I mean, they're
because they're leaning so hard towards PC. It'd be silly for them to not have their own client, right?
They've got an overlay now, which was added to Ghost of Tsushima, the PlayStation network overlay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all. Yeah, and it'll probably connect to like their mobile service as well.
Yeah, I mean,
this is all it's not super exciting because we don't know what this entails, and I'm not a huge mobile gamer. I don't play.
I don't have a single game on my
Call of Duty on mobile, and I don't really play anything on mobile.
No, neither do I.
Mainly, my mobile is for listening to podcasts or whatever.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. No, this is interesting with Xbox doing this. It makes perfect sense considering they own King. King, like just Candy Crush alone is a huge game. I just Googled what they also have. They got Bubble Witch 3 Saga, which I know that has a lot of players. Pet Rescue Saga, Farm Heroes. They got so many titles, and yeah, to put the Xbox branding on these games is only gonna solidify
they basically said
Xbox more than it already is, a multi-platform brand. It's not just the Xbox console now. It is mobile, it is PC, it's a console itself. It's everywhere. And to see PlayStation try and begin to angle themselves towards that.
They're not going to be left behind, basically.
Yeah, because they are in terms of like titles, that first party titles that are going to come out soon, at least.
Yeah, for like enthusiast consoles, they're leading, right?
Yeah,
PlayStation outsells Xbox. The Switch is more of a mainstream. Nintendo does its own thing, so there's obviously more Switches out there than there are PS5s. But PS5 is the dominant enthusiast console. Like if you're looking for a console to play Call of Duty or Baldur's Gate or or Spider-Man or Sony's PlayStation games or third-party games, Assassin's Creed, etc. on a 4K TV, you're going to get a PS5 more often than not. I mean, it's outselling the Xbox, but the Xbox has a great value proposition with Game Pass and PC. Buy the game or
connectivity.
If you have Game Pass, you can play it on PC or you can play it on Xbox, cross-save, cross-platform. There's reason enough to get an Xbox, not to say that it isn't good, but PlayStation dominates in sales.
But hardware sales are down overall, so that's why we're seeing a push into different
PC,
markets.
Mobile. Yeah, they need to grow revenue.
They need to compensate for the loss in total hardware sales across the board. Despite PlayStation absolutely knocking it out the park when compared to Xbox's last console, because they doubled the amount of hardware sales, right? Yeah, but overall it's still down.
Have their own mobile platforms.
Yeah, just seeing a bit of diversification here, which is good for all consumers, I think, especially because they're going to embed connectivity across, I'm guessing, all of these new platforms that are coming out. So if we do see a PlayStation mobile platform, which it appears like it's going to happen. If you get PS Plus, I'm guessing that is you're going to be able to sign in on that mobile platform. with your
That's right, it'll be the
PlayStation
same
account, and then you'll get
Yep.
free games, and I'm guessing you'll have mobile version.
That's what they want.
Yeah, just like that just seems standard now. Like Games Pass across everything.
I think like that we discussed it last time, is that like having users, or like, you know, your monthly active users, or your however many people are on your network, whatever, is like a currency in and of itself.
Absolutely.
For like these quarterly earnings reports,
Yeah.
and growth and things like that. And speaking of the console stuff, another big story that kind of like broke last night. Weirdly, it got pushed to Xbox apps on Android and iOS, and it actually came to my phone. I'm like, what? When was this announced? It was basically saying play the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on Game Pass when it launches later this year.
Whoa.
I was like, oh, okay. So that's official now. So yeah, so it's official. The next major Call of Duty release, which is called Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is going to get a major reveal
Day one as
in
well.
a couple of weeks, is coming day one to PC Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass.
Damn, that's good.
Which will be, you know, this is the apparently this one has been in development for quite some time. It's
6
Treyarch,
years.
and yeah, it's been in for a while, and apparently it's a major Call of Duty release.
Yeah.
Like this is one they're going to push hard, and a lot of people, and every year it's one of the top selling games. So it coming to Game Pass is going to be a very interesting case study. Derek Strickland, who is our main games beat recorder, and you know, he's an expert on the history of Xbox and the growth and the future and the numbers and stuff like that.
It's more of an analyst, if anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically an analyst as much as a reporter.
Mm.
He's predicting that, sort of on social media, that this move alone will add millions of subscribers to Game Pass.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a sentiment that's being shared as well by others. I'm not too sure. Like, I don't. But like, I just don't know. Like, the thing is, like, Call of Duty's always felt like a mystery to me. Like, it's an annual game, and it's always the top selling game. But I don't really play it.
Neither do I.
So like, I'm kind of like out of the loop with Call of Duty, so I don't really understand who is playing it really, and are they the type of people that would subscribe to a service like Game Pass? If you know what I mean.
Absolutely, they would, because I imagine the vast majority of Call of Duty players are like aged 18 and down, really. Like that, the large majority are the younger generation, and
they're not going to subscribe. Then they'll just get the game.
No, because they don't have $70. They've got $20.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, but then
it's
yeah, but how are they subscribing without a credit card?
Hey, no, it's like mum and dad's credit card, but they can save money by doing, like, at least on the initial month. Obviously, the longer that you keep Game Pass subscribed, you will eventually pass the $70 mark. But just the simple offer of being able to play the new Call of Duty for $17 to $20 versus having to spend $70 right out the gate, I reckon it is going to be a completely a very attractive proposition to a lot of the Call of Duty fan base. So I agree with Derek that this will significantly increase the total number of Game Pass subscribers, especially if say Black Ops 6 launches and there is other really good sought after titles in Game Pass alongside it. So you buy Game Pass for, like, you say it's the first time, you got your new Call of Duty, you've rinsed it for a month. Oh, what else is on Game Pass? Do I have to cancel this thing?
Yeah.
You've also got other stuff there. So
yeah, I think you're right. But also, yeah, like, because they're adding that new Indiana Jones game, and that Avowed RPG from Obsidian, and these are all going to be on PC as well. And there could potentially be another Forza Horizon game this year, because that's usually every couple of years. And the last one was a pretty big hit, and you know, Forza Horizon's a really cool game, and you know, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll play some of that. Yeah, I think like Xbox is kind of like lining up its things now and having Call of Duty there as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a
pretty
big
huge.
catalyst, I reckon.
Because then they can just add legacy Call of Duty games as well.
100%.
Keep people interested. You know, like
Yeah.
obviously, I think it's smart for them to start with this because it's like a brand new day one. It makes it the most attention, and then they could do like 3 months later.
World War II.
Here's Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 trilogy.
Boom.
Yeah. On Game Pass now.
Yeah, that is.
It's like, oh, cool. I can play through that trilogy as well.
Yeah.
And then, you know, or whatever. Then you can go down the track and release the old ones as legacy titles and things like that.
Yeah, I believe subscribers will only stay subscribed if the value is there. And I don't think, well, I think it's really smart that Black Ops 6 is going to be like the catalyst for this, because Black Ops is, I would say, probably the most popular Call of Duty titles, like Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2. That was massive for Call of Duty. Everyone was playing that. Black Ops 6 as well, like it's just got legacy brand name behind it, and it coming to Game Pass, those gamers that sign up, I think they will stay purely because it's Call of Duty, but I reckon there'll be probably a small group that buys, because every year when Call of Duty comes out, everyone buys it, then they play it, and then they go, I don't want to play it anymore. So Microsoft needs to have other games alongside of it, or older Call of Duties, like you were saying, to really keep those subscriptions there, because then the value's gone. Or Black Ops 6 is just a like home run of a Call of Duty game. Like everyone loves it. It is like the top of the top, like as good as like what is it? I was saying the developer, Infinity Ward. What did they make? They made
Call of Duty 4, the iconic one.
4 and Modern Warfare 2.
Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, Modern Warfare 2, like that kind of level, or Black Ops 2, that kind of level of game. But yeah, I'm really excited to see the numbers after this. Oh, well, we don't really get numbers from Xbox, do we?
Well, they do kind of, yeah, that's right, because they kind of stopped reporting the numbers because Game Pass subscription flatlined a couple of years ago. They kind of just like stayed at, like, they grew to pretty quickly to about 30 million or so, or whatever it is now, and then kind of like just stayed at that.
Yeah.
And I think you know, as long as they're doing back end work as well, by like they need to like really just put a lot of effort into the PC app.
Yeah. Yep.
To make it like a robust platform to actually launch these games. So then you'd be like, okay, here's my Xbox app. I'm a Game Pass subscriber. These are all my Xbox games, and Call of Duty's there. Bang, fire it up. No issues. It's fast. It's quick.
Yep.
It has been improving. So that's the good thing, is that the Xbox app is a lot better now than its first version in Windows 10.
Absolutely.
When they debuted it, it's a lot better now. But yeah, as long as they continue to improve that side of it, then I think they're going to get a lot of players.
I agree completely. And did you want to finish this episode off with update on Starship? SpaceX's Starship. Okay, so been talking about Starship for many months now. We have currently done 3 flights, all of which have ended in boom. But that is what happens when you are launching rockets that are 400 feet tall and have never flown before. That's what happens. That's just a part of the development. But we did reach orbit in flight 3. There was stage separation between the first stage and the second stage of the rocket. So Super Heavy, the booster, and Starship, the actual vehicle itself, that completely separated perfectly, or everything went to plan. Super Heavy eventually exploded, and so did Starship. But now we're moving on to flight 4, and the objective has changed from reaching orbit to beginning to test the landing. And this is where the stakes, I believe, increase significantly. Not initially, but
this seems to me, it seems exponentially more difficult.
Absolutely.
Like, taking off is easy.
Yeah.
Landing is hard.
I
think, like, even if you were like flying a plane, I think either of us would be able to. Wouldn't take very long to figure out how to take off in a plane.
Landing.
But landing, forget it. Like it's like when you play like Flight Simulator.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you try and land.
Yeah. Oh my
like,
God.
Forget it. It's like it's over.
Oh my! I got a cramp thinking about landing a plane. But yeah, you're totally right. Landing is much more difficult. Especially given the size of this is the world's largest rocket. So Flight 4 will consist of focusing on the ability to, quote, return and reuse Starship and Super Heavy, end quote. More specifically, though, the primary objective will be executing a landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico with the Super Heavy booster, and while also achieving a controlled entry of Starship. Now, for those that are not well versed in space jargon, here's a simplified version of that. The company will be testing a heat shield on the Super Heavy booster as it re-enters the atmosphere. As it approaches the Gulf of Mexico, which is over the ocean, we don't have to worry about Super Heavy crashing down in someone's backyard here, at least not yet. As it approaches the Gulf of Mexico, the booster will engage its boosters to slow down and attempt to soft land in the oceans. It'll be on like a floating, kind of like a pontoon of some stage, some kind. Similarly, SpaceX aims to demonstrate its control over Starship's entry as it re-enters the atmosphere, and that is simply like as Starship is coming back down and they're landing Super Heavy, they just want to engage the boosters and make sure that they have accurate control over the ship as it comes back down. Eventually, we will see probably in Flight 5 and 6, depending on the success of the splashdown in the ocean, we'll start to see Starship also land as well.
Will this be successful?
Hey?
Do you think? Will it be successful?
This one?
This test?
Oh, I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch. Look, landing Super Heavy it's no easy feat. It is going to be, if they can achieve this off the bat, the next flight, so they want to do at least 2 soft landings in the Gulf of Mexico before they attempt to land Super Heavy back on the launch pad at the facility,
because you don't want to destroy the facility.
Exactly right. But yeah, this is where the stakes are becoming a lot higher, because if they do execute this perfectly, and then let's say they execute Starship landing perfectly as well, we would then move to landing back on the rocket launch pads. And if it stuffs up there, then you could be taking out the Mechazilla towers, which is like that pronged fork thing. Essentially, Elon and SpaceX envision this massive tower with 2 prongs coming out either side that he calls the chopsticks. Super Heavy comes down the middle and just quietly sits on the launch pad, and then the 2 arms come in and stabilize it.
Yeah.
That is like threading a needle.
I know, when you think about it, that it's coming in from orbit and it has to reach this very tiny specific.
Yeah, it's got to slow down.
Spot.
It's got to be able to.
And the angle has to be perfectly
correct its orientation, so it doesn't come in like on a diagonal kind of approach. It has to be. Everything has to go right, and if it doesn't,
it seems almost.
It will tip over and just smash everything and explode.
Seems almost too dangerous to even attempt.
Yeah, but we got to do it. That is the goal of getting to Mars. Is this is the vehicle. So when will this Flight 4 happen? We are looking at this is a placeholder date. It could launch as soon as June 5. SpaceX is currently pending regulatory approval from the Federal Aviation Administration. There is an investigation launched into the company, and if you're going, oh, that's bad, regulators are looking into SpaceX. They do this after every flight. Every single flight, because design changes happen to Starship. There is say in flight Flight 3 as Super Heavy was separated. Some of the Raptor engines, which it currently has 33, weren't engaged. So they had to make some design changes. SpaceX outlined all this on its blog. So I think it's a lot of like the fuel improvements, so stuff doesn't catch fire, etc, etc, etc. And they also look at the environmental impact of the launch itself as well. So the FAA go through all of it, and then they give SpaceX a checklist to say, here's what you need to change. Once this list is complete, you're good to go. You've got your flight license. So yeah, Pete, I've seen comments on like Twitter and stuff like that. It's like, oh, the FAA is investigating SpaceX. I'm like, yeah, it's good that they're doing that. We don't just want some billionaire bloke launching rockets without, any
sort of checks in place.
Yeah. Imagine, this is what I would be doing if I had billions of dollars. Imagine me unhinged, just launching stuff into the sky. I need someone to come and be like, hey, can we check this? I'm like, no. Fred said that he built this in his backyard. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So it's good. We want, even though it does slow down the development of these things.
You need some sort of regulation.
Yeah,
we need some sort of like safety check.
Super heavy, the super heavy launcher just falling in the middle of LA because. Because someone hasn't checked it. Like, nah, we need checks. But yeah, this is exciting and something to look forward to. So we can see that this will probably happen while we're in Taiwan, which is going to be cool. Yeah, it's something we can watch in the hotel room, Kosta. Yeah, we'll watch Super Heavy explode. And then I'll be right there writing news. Or have it pre-written that it's exploded, because that's more than likely.
Change the headline.
Yeah.
Success.
Yeah, that's explosion. It.
An explosive success or an explosive failure.
I do. I like that. I like that headline. I'm going to try and remember that. That's about it that we got for this show. I don't know what we're going to do next week. We're probably going to try and record something in Taiwan to keep everyone updated.
Otherwise, we'll do a wrap-up, Computex wrap-up when we get back.
Yep. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And that'll probably be a long show as well, because we'll have a lot of stories to go through over the event, and a lot of photos to look at, videos, cool tech to talk about. So stay tuned for that. If we don't get the episode out on the next Friday, not the coming Friday, the next Friday, it'll be out probably earlier in that week, I would say, just to catch up. But thank you very much for listening. Do you have anything to sign this episode off with?
No, other than stay tuned for all that, the onslaught of Computex, and then after that, all the gaming news and other stuff that's going to happen in June, early June. It's going to be very interesting. Couple episodes. We'll have lots and lots of major stories to cover.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much for listening, guys. See ya.